that was brought in earlier. This ordinance was brought by the centre just a week after Supreme Court's order, which gave the control of Babus in the national capital and reporting to the Delhi government. But the apex court's order also led the foundation of a law by Parliament on this subject in the future. The Delhi Services Bill was passed by Lok Sabha on August 3 by voice vote amidst a walkout by the opposition parties. But today is the real test for both the opposition and also the centre. A heated debate is already taking place in Parliament in Rajya Sabha today, with the India bloc leaving no stone unturned to oppose the bill. But the BJP seems to be on a stronger footing after BJD, YSRCP and TDP all announced their support to this bill. They claimed there was nothing unconstitutional about this bill as is being projected by the opposition bloc, because Parliament has full rights to make laws for Delhi. Currently in Rajya Sabha, there is a total of 245 seats, of which 7 are vacant, which makes the halfway mark, which makes the number 238. The majority mark is standing, of course, at 119, and 120 is required to pass the bill. The interesting thing about this bill's vote, is that it is in a way making clear exactly where the two blocs stand, the NDA bloc and the India bloc, because this is the first time we're witnessing something like this since these blocs were reformulated and crystallized. Numbers wise, of course, the new India bloc can only play catch up to the NDA, but we'll wait and see how that goes. So is this battle, this vote, setting the tone for 2024, and is this the real test of the NDA versus India numbers ahead of the general elections? That's the big question we're asking, and we'll take that to our guests in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at the arguments that have been presented by all sides as far as this political debate in Rajya Sabha is concerned. Let's start with the ruling party. First up, BJP MP Sudhanshu Trivedi arguing that the SC had said that Parliament can make laws on the national capital, so therefore there is no problem. The BJP also claims that the ordinance was in fact needed and was brought in the manner that has been questioned, the manner that it was brought in because there was a crackdown of sorts initiated by the Aam Aadmi Party soon after the Supreme Court's order on the Vigilance Department, which was probing many issues connected to the Delhi government of the Aam Aadmi Party. Meanwhile, the AAP itself argued that Delhi should be an independent state, and this bill was an insult to the likes of BJP leaders like Advani and Vajpayee and others as well. The AAP also claimed that Delhi Services Bill erodes India's federal entity. Remember, this is the big issue that they have been taking to other India bloc members as well, and garnering their support on this issue. In fact, one of the most vociferous attacks against this bill came from the Congress party and came from Congress's Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who argued that BJP's approach is to gain control of the national capital by hook or crook. He actually called the government at the centre control freak. He also went on to say this bill is actually an assault on the aspirations of the people of Delhi. Now, take a look at the arguments by the BJD, for example, that's decided to support the bill, boosting the numbers of the BJP or the Treasury benches. Now, they claim the BJP remains equidistant from both the BJP and the Congress, but they decide to support this bill as Parliament indeed has the power to bring in a law of this kind. YSRCP also have decided to support the bill, arguing that Parliament has the power to make a law as far as the national capital region of Delhi is concerned. Remember, it is not a full state. YSRCP also targeted the India bloc and claimed that they are trying to mislead the public, the people of India. The voting on the bill will begin after Home Minister Amit Shah's reply, which is expected soon. But before that, also take a look at the top 5 members of the India bloc that has 99 MPs in total in Rajya Sabha, out of which the Congress is, of course, the biggest contributor, the biggest member with 31 MPs. Remember, for the Congress, this bill was a bit of a conundrum. Their state units did not want to be seen supporting the Aam Aadmi Party on this issue, both in Delhi and in Punjab. The Delhi unit, in fact, felt that this bill was needed for the national capital because it is a special entity in its own terms. The Aam Aadmi Party is obviously having 10 MPs. Before that is also the TMC that has 12. DMK, also part of the India bloc, has 10 MPs. And of course, RJD is the 5th strongest member as far as the India bloc is concerned. And these are the numbers that will also give you a sense of how crucial the Congress numbers here are. Overall, the India bloc didn't have to vote in Lok Sabha, but it will be crucial to see and interesting to see how they vote and if they vote this time in Rajya Sabha to make their voices heard. Overall, the numbers, just for the benefit of our viewers, is 104 on their side, which is against the bill, but the government has as many as 131 in support. With that, let's begin our first debate of the day. The real test of NDA versus India numbers ahead of 2024. Is this bill vote going to be that?
ये बिल लाल कृष्ण अडवाणी जी का, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी का, मदन लाल खुराना जी का, सुषमा स्वराज जी का, अरुण जेटली जी का, सबका अपमान करने का और उनके 40 साल के संघर्ष को मिट्टी में मिलाने का काम करता है सर।
This bill is completely unconstitutional. It is fundamentally anti-democratic.
ये पहली बार ऐसा हो रहा है कि किसी देश की राष्ट्रीय राजधानी में उस देश की केंद्र सरकार की शक्तियां, उससे अधिक शक्तियां किसी और की होनी चाहिए। मेरे विचार से दुनिया में ऐसा कोई दूसरा उदाहरण देखने को नहीं मिलेगा।
Let's go across to the guests joining us. Guru Prakash Paswan is from the BJP. Harishankar Gupta from the Congress Party joining us. I'm also joined by Abhinandita Mathur, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Arun Anand, consulting editor, First Post with us. Guru Prakash, let me begin with you. The most vociferous attack against this bill and the intentions behind this bill, as I mentioned earlier, came from the Congress's Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who went on to say that you are a control freak Sarkar, that there is no other government in the past that has tried to overturn two constitutional benches' judgments. There is no other government in the past that has tried to do what this bill intends to do. And there's a reason for that, that no previous government intended to do what this bill has intended to do. So in a way, questioning both your tactics and your intentions.
Shivani, a very warm good evening to you and all my fellow panelists. Obviously, Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi ji is a senior advocate and he knows how to argue. And given that he is a advocate, he can argue from any given side. But as a nation, we are a constitutional democracy, Shivani. And what I have in my hand is the Constitution of India. And the Constitution of India, Article 239, Subclause 3, Subclause B, it categorically states, and I read, nothing shall derogate from the power of Parliament under this Constitution to make laws with respect to any matter for a union territory or any part thereof. This is the Constitution of India saying. This is not the Bharatiya Janata Party saying. The Constitution of India empowers the central government, empowers the government of India to make any law. And this is constitutionally speaking. Number two, if you look at the debates from the Constituent Assembly, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru, they were of the strong opinion that the central, the NCT, the National Capital Territory must come under the purview of central government. Look at Washington. Look at the National Capital Territory of Canberra in Australia. There is no regional or state government. Number three, my friends from the opposition, especially number three, my friends from the opposition, they are selectively quoting the Supreme Court judgment, while the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs have also taken up from the Supreme Court judgment the paras 86, 95 and 164. Nowhere it questions. Nowhere in these para the Supreme Court has questioned the legislative competence of the Indian Parliament over its jurisdiction.
I get all of that. I mentioned all of that. No, Guru, I mentioned all of that. But respond,
my last point,
yes,
point,
but
Shivani.
Respond to the intent. And of course, eventually some portions of this bill have been diluted, I'm guessing for a reason, right? The intent of the bill is being questioned.
Shivani, that is, and I mean, I find it really laughable, Shivani, when Aam Aadmi Party speaks of democracy and speak of constitution. Aam Aadmi Party is the only political party in the country which has a permanent post reserved for its national president. Arvind Kejriwal, he has said that I am going to be the permanent president of Aam Aadmi Party. There is no internal democracy in Aam Aadmi Party.
Let's not deviate to that. Let's not get into how the parties are run. But respond to the question I'm asking. Yes,
Shivani, it's about your intention. It's about your character. The character of Aam Aadmi Party is anti-democratic. I gave you example from the Constitution of India. I gave you example from the Supreme Court verdict. I gave you examples from the Constituent Assembly debates. My last point, Congress senior leader, former member of parliament, son of former chief minister of Delhi, Sheila Dikshit, Sandeep Dikshit has categorically said कि अरविंद केजरीवाल ने INDIA के नेताओं को बरगला दिया है. Arvind Kejriwal has confused the leaders of INDIA on this particular ordinance, and he has supported this ordinance. What does it say? So we have to understand one simple point, that this entire facade of constitution, this entire facade of democratic ethos, it's nothing but without any logic, without any base, and without any foundation. Our argument, our assertion is constitutionally backed, it's democratically asserted.
Right, fair enough. I'll go to the Aam Aadmi Party on the hue and cry that the party is making on the constitutionality of this bill, and also, of course, on the federal structure of the country coming into danger because of this bill. Remember, this refers to the National Capital Region of Delhi. It really does not come under the basic federal structure that the center and the state enjoy, or that relationship otherwise. Delhi is a special city and a special entity. You may want it to be a full city. It isn't as it stands. But before I go across to the Aam Aadmi Party and, take a response on why they are overblowing or overstating the importance of this bill, let me go across to our Congress representative. Harishankar ji is with us. Is it wrong to point out, Harishankar Gupta, the fact that your party is doing what it's doing in Rajya Sabha or in Parliament, opposing this bill purely out of political compulsions, purely because you were blackmailed, if I may use that term, you were given an ultimatum by the Aam Aadmi Party to oppose this bill or they walk out? You did it purely with an eye on 2024. Your heart is not in it. Your Delhi unit wants this bill.
शिवानी, आपने जो बात कही है अभी, वो काफी सख्त टिप्पणियां की हैं आपने, और मैं उनसे सहमत इसलिए नहीं हूं कि राज्यसभा में, लोकसभा में पार्टी का क्या डिसीजन है वो पार्टी हाईकमांड को तय करना है. सही है, दिल्ली के अंदर 10 साल से लगातार हम लोग केजरीवाल की सरकार से लड़ रहे हैं, और लड़ रहे हैं, साथ में ये भी कहते हैं कि केजरीवाल की जो अनियंत्रित महत्वाकांक्षाएं हैं, आज जो कुछ भी परिणाम हुआ है वो उसकी देन है, जो माहौल पैदा हुआ है उसकी देन है, ये भी साथ में कह रहे हैं. लेकिन इसके साथ साथ में एक बात और कहना चाहूं. अभी पासवान जी ने जो बात कही है, और पूरी पार्लियामेंट के अंदर बीजेपी के और इस बिल को लाने वाले लोगों ने जो आर्गुमेंट्स दिए हैं, उसके अंदर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का भी हवाला दिया है, उसके अंदर टेक्निकलिटीज का हवाला भी दिया है, सब चीजें कही है उन्होंने. 1950 के बाद से हिंदुस्तान के अंदर सरकार जो रही, पार्लियामेंट जो चली, उसके अंदर बीजेपी की इन बातों को लेकर क्या भूमिका रही ये पूरा देश आज जानता है. लेकिन इनको ये नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि इसी सरकार के रहते हुए, यही सिस्टम रहते हुए, इनकी भी सरकार 5 साल दिल्ली में थी, हमारी भी सरकार 15 साल दिल्ली के अंदर थी. अभी ये 10 साल के अंदर जो केजरीवाल की सरकार दिल्ली में आई है, उसके बाद में ये जो इनके आर्गुमेंट जो है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के भरे हुए हैं, बार बार ये जो आर्टिकल पढ़कर सुनाते हैं, 239AA, 2391, 2391B, ये सब जो पढ़ के सुनाते हैं, आज ही इनको क्यों याद आ रहा है? अगर ये चाहते.
हरिशंकर जी, मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछती हूँ. आप खुद ही मान रहे हैं कि आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार की वजह से जो सिनेरियो बन गया है नेशनल कैपिटल में, उसकी वजह से ये दिन देखना पड़ रहा है, उसकी वजह से ये बिल आ रहा है. तो आप तो बीजेपी की जो आर्ग्यूमेंट उसको सपोर्ट ही कर रहे हैं, वो भी यही कह रहे हैं. दूसरी बात मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, आपकी 15 साल लगातार सरकार चली इस आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार से पहले, क्या आप दे देते पूरा कंट्रोल?
नहीं, देखिए, मैं एक बात, वही मैंने कहा ना आपको अभी, शिवानी, मैंने वही बात आपसे कही है कि हमारी सरकार भी 15 साल थी, हमने भी तालमेल करके, उसमें बीजेपी की 5 साल सरकार संसद में रही है, केंद्र में रही है, हमने तालमेल करके दिल्ली का काम किया। और हमारा मुख्य उद्देश्य क्या था? राजनीति करना नहीं था, राजनीति की महत्वाकांक्षाएं नहीं थी, और दिल्ली का मुख्यमंत्री देश का प्रधानमंत्री और मुख्यमंत्री बन जाए ऐसी सोच भी शीला दीक्षित की कभी नहीं रही। लेकिन हमने काम किया और दिल्ली का विकास किया। वहां केजरीवाल से चूक हुई, उसका हर्जाना दिल्ली भुगत रही है। आज दिल्ली की सरकार, बड़े अफसोस से कहना पड़ रहा है कि दिल्ली की सरकार को बाय बाय टाटा कहने की आवश्यकता पैदा हो गई।
बट सर, मैं आपसे इस बिल पे सवाल पूछ रही हूँ, यही तो मेरा सवाल था आपका कि आप
दिल्ली के अंदर कोई सरकार नहीं है।
नहीं, मैं आपसे बिल पे सवाल पूछ रही हूँ। हरिशंकर जी, जनता तो ये जानना चाहती है ना कि कांग्रेस का असली स्टैंड इस बिल पे क्या है। आप इस बिल के सपोर्ट में है या नहीं है? आप तो इस बिल के सपोर्ट में लग रहे हैं, लेकिन आप पार्लियामेंट में, राज्यसभा में अपोज करेंगे, क्या ये सही है?
देखिए, मैं आपको शिवानी जी एक बात पर ले जाना चाहता हूं।
हाँ जी।
आज देश का चुनाव, आज देश जो जिस परिस्थितियों से गुजर रहा है, देश के अंदर जो बड़े मुद्दे हैं, महंगाई का है, बेरोजगारी का है और धर्मनिरपेक्षता का जो मुद्दा है, जो विषय पूरा देश कंसर्न है, लोग भयभीत हैं, लोग घबरा कर घर बैठे हुए हैं। आज उससे लड़ने के लिए विपक्षी एकता की जरूरत है, और एक ही कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम है कि बीजेपी हटाओ और देश बचाओ जी। आज ये प्रोग्राम है, उसको सामने रखकर कांग्रेस का फैसला है।
जी, बिल्कुल फैसला है, and you are, I mean, you are, of course, you have the prerogative to decide that for your party. The public will judge if you're being honest with the issue of the national capital and the issues it faces. But let me bring in Abhinandita. Please respond to both.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Yes.
Just give me 30 seconds. Just give me 30. आप दिल्ली के बारे में कह रही हैं, बिहार के अंदर पूरा बीजेपी जब सरकार में थी तो पूरा बीजेपी ने ये समर्थन दिया कि जातीय आधार पर जनगणना होनी चाहिए, और बीजेपी की जो केंद्र में सरकार थी वो लगातार खिलाफ करती रही। तो डबल स्टैंडर्ड तो नहीं चलेगा ना। मैंने बता दिया आपको, दिल्ली है, दिल्ली के विषय है, पंजाब के विषय है।
Okay, fair enough, but can I just come in? No, हरिशंकर गुप्ता, आप जो पॉइंट बोल रहे हैं, I take your point, but there is a slight difference in that. State units and let's say a state government of a party, and that too an alliance party, and the central government may differ on issues. They will of course have to explain their issues and thrash them out. But this is a different scenario here. The Congress is not that, you know, you are in government at the center, but your state unit is opposing it. You're neither in government in Delhi nor at the center. Then why the duplicity on your standards? Is that duplicity not purely because of political compulsions? But I gave you the opportunity. Let Abhinandita come in. Abhinandita, please respond to what both the BJP and the Congress are saying. One, this is not about constitutionality. Second, it is not about whether this is right or wrong. The parliament has the right to make such a law. And this entire situation was precipitated because of your government. This, both the BJP and the Congress seem to be in agreement of.
Good evening. You're right that this is a very serious matter, and I will address the questions of the two panelists before me. But before that, I would like to convey something to the people of Delhi, that it is, and come in solidarity with them, that it is indeed a very, very sad day for democracy, sad day especially for the citizens of Delhi, for the residents of Delhi like myself, because today, you know, we have had to face a political fraud that has happened to us. The 2 crore people who vote in a government, and incidentally with a huge mandate, an unprecedented mandate, today stand powerless, stand helpless. And the reason why this is happening is simply because Modi ji is unable to compete with Arvind Kejriwal. You know, अगर आपको compete करना है अरविंद केजरीवाल से, तो आप स्कूल में compete करते, आप हॉस्पिटल बनाते, आप कुछ शिक्षा मॉडल लाते, आपके पास कुछ नहीं है दिखाने के लिए. And then when you finally keep losing and losing elections, you are a sore loser, and you end up, you know, I mean, changing the law. For God's sake, I mean, इतना भी क्या, you know, इतने बुरे थोड़ी ना loser होते हैं आप, इतने बड़े विश्व गुरु हैं. Leave Delhi alone, for God's sake. We genuinely believe that this bill is unconstitutional, that this bill is not only an attack on the federal structure of the constitution, but also on the basic core values of what India is. I mean, we are known for, you know, diversity. This is the capital. And we would like to ask the BJP spokesperson here कि जो फिर साहिब सिंह वर्मा जी, मदन लाल खुराना जी, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी, LK अडवाणी जी इतने साल से स्टेटहुड की डिमांड कर रहे थे दिल्ली की, वो क्या मतलब टाइम पास कर रहे थे, झूठ बोल रहे थे?
गुरु प्रकाश प्लीज
तो ये क्या दिल्ली के लोगों को आपने इतने सालों से बेवकूफ बनाया हुआ है? So 40 years, this struggle has gone on for 40 years. Look, we must understand that the people of Delhi, like myself, are not merely voters without any power.
Guru
We are
Prakash.
citizens. Delhi, it is our identity. It's not a small state.
Shivani.
2 करोड़ लोग दिल्ली शहर में
Shivani,
रहते हैं और आप
it's my
उनसे उनके
turn,
हक
so-
छीन रहे हैं और एक ऑर्डिनेंस के थ्रू वो भी not in a regular procedure of how a law is brought about. What was the emergency to bring out the bill?
Guru
One
Prakash,
more
let
thing,
him come
you
in.
know, They said they gave long lectures. They gave long lectures about. I'll just finish. They gave long lectures in the parliament today about why this bill was important. And let me just state it clearly. आपके अंडर लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है कि आपसे दिल्ली नहीं संभल रही. You know, you are not able to handle Manipur, and then you can bring in the president rule, and you're not doing it, letting people die. And here in Delhi, when there was absolutely no need to bring in this ordinance, you bring in this ordinance because.
Ms. Mathur, let him respond very quickly. I have to go to Arun Anand also. Let him respond very quickly. You raised the particular question of what was the statehood demand that BJP leaders themselves were raising. Where does the BJP stand on this, Guru Prakash? Relevant question to ask today.
No, Shivani, I was patiently listening to my friend from the Aam Aadmi Party, and definitely people of Delhi, I think when you look at the assembly election, you should also look at the verdict they have given in the parliamentary elections in 2014 and 2019. People of Delhi have given 7 members of parliament, all of
Well,
them,
then
2 crore
why
people
don't you
of Delhi
discount
have
all the
sent out
7
people to
seats,
them as
Lok Sabha
members.
seats of Delhi? What kind of an
Shivani, I did not
argument is
speak when
this?
she was speaking. Shivani, I did not speak when
Yes, very quickly, please
Shivani,
finish.
I think,
Guru
so
Prakash, I have 30
I
seconds for you.
think
Please respond.
this is the,
please respond to the statehood question. I need to go to
Shivani,
Arun
you did
Anand
not.
also. Fair enough, 30 seconds. Please respond on the statehood issue.
Shivani, I did not speak a single word when the panelist from the Aam Aadmi Party was speaking. I expect you give me the same courtesy.
30 seconds,
Thank you.
please.
This
30
is the
seconds.
dual standard. This is the hypocrisy. This is the dual standard. This is the hypocrisy of the Aam Aadmi Party. They speak of democracy. They speak of constitution. But this is the mannerism they show on the television. Number one. Number two, you speak about the people of Delhi. People of Delhi have trusted us in 2014, in 2019. The ordinance categorically speaks about creating National Capital Civil Services Authority. It has the chief minister. It has 2 bureaucrats. The chief minister is there. The sole point is that the Aam Aadmi Party, through all this gimmickry, through all this rhetoric, want to save their corrupted netas. They have to accept the fact, they have to reconcile with this reality that half their mantri mandal, आपके आधे मंत्री तो जेल में हैं, आप लिकर पे स्कैम करेंगे और उसके बाद आप ये आशा रखेंगे कि ऑर्डिनेंस का विरोध करके उनको बचा लेंगे। आपके आधे मंत्री
और वादों का आपने गला घोटा है। Abhinandita, I'll come back to you. Arun Anand, there are 2 questions here. One is of perception. As Abhishek Manu Singhvi said, is the central government appearing a control freak sarkar? That they're wanting to control what goes on in the national capital through a backdoor, through a law brought in, even though the court had a different mind. The second is about numbers. On that, maybe the NDA doesn't have much of a problem. We'll know soon, of course, as the Rajya Sabha also votes on this. Where do you think each side stands on these 2 issues, perception and numbers? Who's winning both of these wars?
I'll come to that, Shivani, but just let me take you back. Let me take our viewers a little bit back in terms of a historical perspective. See, when Delhi used to have Municipal Corporation of Delhi and Metropolitan Council, there were 2 houses. Metropolitan Council was the upper house. Then in early 1990s, Delhi was given a special status and an assembly was formed. And the first government which came there was the BJP government headed by Madan Lal Khurana. Now, from 93 to 98, they ruled, and from 98 to 2030, to almost 2013, Congress ruled. None of them had, any confrontation with the bureaucrats. There were pitched battles within assembly, outside assembly. But something strange has happened after Aam Aadmi Party has come to power, and there is a pattern in it which I see. Because in Punjab also you see them confronting with the governor. You see them confronting here with the lieutenant governor. Successive chief secretaries have been hounded out. So this kind of a thing was never there. Now coming to this thing, I was listening to the fellow panelists that what Sahib Singh Verma had said, what Sushma Swaraj had said. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to cover all these proceedings of assembly as a cub reporter at that time. So, but you know, the governance, the environment of governance is a very dynamic thing. It changes with times. 98 to 2013, it was a different time. The Aam Aadmi Party had not come into existence at that time. Even if you look at historical thing, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was always there for, I'm just giving an example, who was always pitching for, you know, the freedom of expression, absolute freedom of expression. He was the one who brought First Amendment in 1951 to curb or to
freedom of
put
expression.
some restrictions.
Yeah.
So when things change, when environment changes, you have to, you know, sometimes change your earlier stance, and for the sake of good governance, you have to bring, you know, certain. I'm not saying whether this bill is right or wrong, but I'm just saying that you cannot be in a time capsule that whatever you had, you know, argued in 98 or 2005 or 2007, so that still holds the ground.
Okay,
And
but
especially
Arun Anand, can I just come in?
I'll just take 10 seconds. See, we have seen a situation where a chief minister had sat on a dharna almost near Republic Day, and so that is why, and Delhi being the capital of the country, I think the way Aam Aadmi Party has governed and dealt with the bureaucrats, and they are doing the same thing largely in Punjab also. So I think that is what has prompted the government to bring this bill. And
Perceptionally though, do you think the central government is being able to make that point that this is for the betterment of Delhi? Or is Arvind Kejriwal succeeding more in convincing not just his like-minded parties? Eventually he managed to bring Congress on board too, which was opposed to their stand.
I think Congress is in a soup in this whole situation, because it's a tactical alliance which they have done in view of the 2024 elections. So it's an uncomfortable situation for them. I think the biggest loss in Delhi especially is going to be for Congress. And I think Aam Aadmi Party, of course, they have a very good media management and strong communication network. So I think it's a battle which is not going to end today or tomorrow, even after the bill is voted for in Rajya Sabha.
Precisely.
This is going to continue for a few days to come.
No, this could well become one of those issues that 2024 is fought on. Very quickly, Abhinandita, I want to come back to you. Virtually everybody on the panel, whether with you in an alliance or otherwise, is suggesting that your behavior is also in dock. By your behavior, I'm saying the government's behavior, especially after the Supreme Court order in your favor, the manner in which you seem to clamp down and take files, etc. from the vigilance department, did that behoove an elected government, given the investigations that are on against many of your colleagues? Is that how you should have responded?
Okay, I'm very happy to answer this question. And I must say that all the panelists, as they should, are actually doing their job. What is important is that the Aam Aadmi Party government since 2015 has served the people of Delhi. The people of Delhi have, despite all odds, have got what they were promised, and they're happy with it, which is why the Aam Aadmi Party gets a unprecedented mandate even as incumbent. So I think that we have to understand this very clearly, that while we debate about the nuances of the bill or whether we like it or not, the fact is that this bill is anti the will of the people. And because the will of the people has been to be with Arvind Kejriwal ji, they have again and again chosen Arvind Kejriwal ji to be their chief minister, which is why the BJP is paranoid and had to bring in a bill where the chief minister's powers are reduced. So I think that it is very unfair for us to,
the chief minister's
the buck
powers
ultimately stops at the people.
No, but once again, the chief minister's powers have not been reduced. The chief minister did not have control of the bureaucracy before the Supreme Court's judgment. And in this case, there's a body and authority where the chief minister will have a voice.
That is not, I can explain this to you technically, that is not entirely true. Because earlier, one is this committee, that did not exist earlier.
Yes.
Second is that, before the Anti-Corruption Bureau, for example, was taken away from the Delhi government, there were many other measures that did belong and rightly so were mandated with the Delhi government that were taken away by the central government.
All right.
I've heard enough arguments about how the BJP and Congress may have worked
I'm just saying
properly
that
in the past and so on, but that was an era of Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Let's not
This
make it
is the
sound
era
like
of
there
Modi
was a
Shah. I mean, there is a
One second.
difference. There is Gundaraj in this country. Look at what's happening in Manipur.
I'm just saying, let's not make it sound like there was a referendum on whether the bureaucracy should be under the complete control of the Delhi government when the elections were held. The public did not really vote on this issue.
No,
right?
that's
That issue has only erupted now, and the
right.
public will possibly vote on it later. But I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. We will, of course, watch very closely the result of the Rajya Sabha vote. Some of our guests will continue with us. But coming up on the other side is another big issue that is absolutely creating ripples in India. And that's because it's a foreign investigation of a reputed, often criticized publication called the NYT that has exposed China's links with Indian news website called the Newsclick. This has put a lot of people in a lot of conundrum. Some of them have gone silent today. But the question we ask is this report now a proof that there is an anti-India lobby, an anti-India clique that does exist in India? On the other side.
Brought to you by.
That's what the AAP is saying, that because the BJP is scared of the work, that is why they have subverted the Supreme Court judgment. RP Singh ji, agar aapko meri awaaz aa rahi hai. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
My question to you is, we were hearing Mr. Chirag Sethi from the Aam Aadmi Party.
Yes, I can hear you now.
And the Aam Aadmi Party is making an argument that the BJP is resorting to these tactics, to these legislative means and moves, because it's scared of the work which is being done by the AAP in the National Capital Territory. Respond to that argument, sir. All right, it seems like we're having problem with the audio of Mr. RP Singh. I'll just ask my team to fix that. Onika ji, coming to you, taking in a word from you, despite the best possible efforts of the Aam Aadmi Party, with the Congress Party also being on board, it was something that they were seeking with the opposition alliance, that everybody should come together and oppose this ordinance/bill, which is all set to be passed. But this political opposition hasn't yielded tangible results. Are you disappointed?
No, not at all. Ma'am, please understand, time and again, it is seen that the BJP cannot digest the legal, constitutional authority of an elected government. Be it money power, muscle power, whichever way they want to crush it, or do horse trading, or dismantle the elected government. So there are ways and means. They might use the authority of the parliament. They might show that they are, absolutely clear about the rules and regulation. But the undercurrent is that they cannot relish anybody but themselves being in power. And this is going to cause very deadly to the Bharatiya Janata Party. They are a scared lot. They are worried because they know very well that they might have formed an NDA with 38 foster children, but the INDIA India, stands for a purpose. The purpose is not to allow this country to fall prey to divisive politics, to, communal rights. You've seen what's happening all around.
I want to first clarify before I ask you the next question. In my individual learned and limited capacity, I believe that any time a constitution bench judgment of a Supreme Court is overturned, any government should be very duly cautious. And that takes me back to history. There are 2 to 3 occasions which I can remember where the Supreme Court judgments, constitution bench judgments, was subverted, and it was during the Congress tenure of former Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
I agree completely, but understand what was done then and what is being done today. The service bill has been revoked. Please understand that the whole purpose is not to allow our elected CM to voice out his opinion or to get some work done. Irrespective which party it is. The trouble that here is that you have to a chief secretary and lieutenant governor and the chief minister left with no veto power. So ultimately, let's any which way, the Lieutenant Governor is always in a confrontation mode, be it Delhi or be it any Indian state where the BJP is not ruling. So that stops the elected government to function in its full-fledged form. After all, people of Delhi have elected a particular party and they expect work to be done.
We are waiting for the BJP to also join into this discussion. Mr. R.P. Singh will be back with us in just a bit. Mr. Umesh Sehgal, who is the former Chief Secretary of Delhi, is joining us on the broadcast. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us. As we talk about this bill, the developments which are set to happen in Rajya Sabha, what are your thoughts on the move of the union government? The Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress and the entire INDIA, the opposition lot, argues that this is crippling of an elected government. Yes, Delhi has a special status, a special arrangement, but that doesn't take away the fact that it's an elected government at the end of the day. Mr. Sehgal, if you can hear me, that question for you, sir.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir. Please go ahead and make your argument.
Just because it is an elected government doesn't mean it can write roughshod over the views of the bureaucracy. The civil service has also a constitutional role to play. The All India services were created under the President by the Constitution. The civil service is recruited by the Union Public Service Commission. They have a role to play. They have to ensure that the law is followed. They have to ensure that the Constitution is followed. They have to ensure that the Supreme Court directions are followed. Now, the point here is that it is not a omnibus thing that the politician can say anything. Now, as far as the recruitment policy, services have three aspects. You have recruitment, you have vigilance, and you have a transfer process. Now, when it comes to recruitment, it is the Union Public Service Commission. Nobody has any role, whether the central government or the state government. The Union Public Service Commission makes recommendations. You are bound to appoint them. As far as the vigilance matters are concerned, there is an overseeing body created by an Act of Parliament called the Central Vigilance Commission. As far as the Delhi is concerned, the Central Vigilance Commission has complete authority. They have appointed the Chief Secretary as the Chief Vigilance Officer. As the Chief Vigilance Officer, he has complete authority as far as vigilance matters are concerned.
But sir, how do you reconcile with the fact that when the Supreme Court interpreted the law or the arrangement of Delhi, it interpreted it in a very different manner than what this bill talks about?
No, I am not getting into the legal aspects.
Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. So a probe by New York Times has made some shocking revelations. According to the report, US tech mogul Neville Roy Singham financed Indian news website Newsclick in India for spreading Chinese propaganda. In 2021, an investigation by the Indian agency ED had revealed that this media portal had received funds worth up to 38 crore rupees from overseas, with authorities tracing the money to this American millionaire Singham. Now, this is what the New York Times investigation has revealed, that in April 2018, a defunct company, part of this Singham network, invested as much as 10 crore rupees into Newsclick at an artificially jacked up premium of 11,500 rupees per share. International investigation further revealed that Newsclick received 27.5 crore rupees from Justice and Education Fund USA. Newsclick got roughly 27 lakh rupees from a US-based G-Span LLC. It doesn't end there. International probe has also showed that roughly 49 lakh rupees were transferred from a USA-based Tricontinental Limited Inc. to Newsclick once again. 2 lakh rupees was transferred from Brazil-based Centro Popular Demidas to Newsclick. This just gives you an idea of the kind of foreign funding involved. But the probe also revealed that 20.5 lakh rupees was transferred, this time from Newsclick, to one of the accused of the much reported case of Bhima Koregaon violence. And after the fund transfer, the accused was appointed as Newsclick's independent partner. That just gives you the sense of its links and leanings. The NYT probe also shows that large sums of money were paid to journalists on Newsclick's payroll. Newsclick has responded to the main charges to the query by News18. We wish to confirm, they say, that the allegations being made against us by certain political actors and sections of the media are misleading, unfounded and without basis in fact or law. They've also gone on to say that we are indeed an independent news organization and this is the most critical part, any allegation that we function as a mouthpiece of the Communist Party of China or other interests are false. Remember, this, as far as Indian interests are concerned, is the biggest issue. So, to tackle this issue, let me bring you some reports in the past or opinion pieces that Newsclick used to publish when it was operational, and you can judge for yourself whether it was doing Chinese propaganda or not. So on the issue of the Chinese apps, interesting. Remember, Chinese apps were banned in India? It published in July 2020, walling out TikTok de facto censures 200 million Indian users. So making a case for TikTok not to be banned. Banning WeChat effectively closes the only communication channel between Chinese and Indians, as if we needed that app to do so, to be connected. This was one of their pieces. On the border dispute with China, one of its reports said, and I quote, to settle the border dispute with China, India must engage in comprehensive border negotiations and tone down militaristic rhetoric. So the onus was put on India. On India's foreign policy at large, it berated External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, saying, and I quote, the efficacy of the entire foreign policy line that Jaishankar pursued, shepherding India into an alliance with the US, which is debatable by the way, has become questionable. This is another piece from December 2020. So I'm just bringing this into light to bring you an idea of what Newsclick stood for and whether to a discerning eye it was possible to gauge even then, without the revelations of its funding, that it was doing China or CCP's bidding. And that's our big debate coming up. Is this report or these links coming out in the open proof also, importantly, that an anti-India clique, even within the media, does exist?
Congress, China, Newsclick a part of a umbilical cord. चीन के प्रति प्यार ये दिखता था और भारत के खिलाफ दुष्प्रचार ये विदेशी जमीन पर भी और विदेशी न्यूज़ एजेंसियों के माध्यम से भी प्रोपेगेंडा के तहत होता था। एक एजेंडा था एंटी इंडिया, ब्रेक इंडिया कैंपेन।
Let's go across to the guests joining us. Guru Prakash from the BJP stays with us. Anshul Avijit of the Congress Party is joining us. Swaran Singh is a foreign affairs expert. Also, Arun Anand continues with us. I want to go across to our non-political experts first up before I get into the political war that the BJP has brought in the Congress in on this issue. Swaran Singh, let me begin with you. I mean, I played a few excerpts of some of the reports or the opinions that this website used to publish. Of course, to many viewers or readers, it may not be evident that this is somebody's bidding. But do you believe that without the allegations of funding alone, a case could have been made that there was indeed pushing of the CCP's line or Chinese interests via this website in India?
First of all, I think there is no doubt about it that whether civilizationally you look at Chinese history or you look at the modern China, you look at communist China, propaganda has always been a very significant tool civilizationally and even in current China.
Yes.
Communist Party was created in 1921, propaganda department was created in 1924. And in communism, propaganda has been an important tool. And more recently, as China has become more capable, we have seen similar debates in Australia, for example, politicians being sort of incentivized, New Zealand, several Southeast Asian countries, United States, Canada. So it is understood that China, with its increasing leverages, is trying to convert its economic prowess into political influence. Second, very clearly, is important to understand how India's clout and stature around the world is emerging important and significant. And China, of course, begins to get more worried about China's concerns about India's rising stature, rising acceptance levels around the world. And therefore, just like it does in other powerful countries, China would be understandably inclined to influence media debates in India or use all other sources to expand their propaganda, expand their view. And we have seen multiple media houses virtually replicating Chinese media on their pages here. And so that is not something new. It has been going on for a long period of time. I think this could be a wake-up call in that sense. If you have a report like this, and I think serious investigations happened in 2021, and I think this is, in that sense, a wake-up call how India should deal with China. I'm not saying that we should stop engaging China. We have about $150 billion of economic, sort of interactions almost on annual basis. We have large number of people crisscrossing every year. And so that is not something as an option that we can stop dealing with China. How we can sort of make our monitoring, our standardization, our procedures little more conscious of the fact that Chinese would be intending to influence internal debates in India.
And especially
to make
the media.
China, especially, media is a powerful tool in that sense of conveying your view, and media would be an important target for Chinese to engage when it comes to influencing internal domestic narratives in India.
Yeah, so you're right about the fact that propaganda is not new, and a part of propaganda or an element of propaganda is part of any government. The dangerous element of what has come to light via investigation, and of course our own independent investigation is ongoing. Anand, I'm coming to you with this because you're from the fraternity too, is how Indian portals with Indian faces, Indian journalists can all be part and party to that propaganda that works against India's interests. And fundamentally what this story is doing is that while there may be one section of the media that is berated day in, day out as quote-unquote Godi media, this is allegedly what qualifies as Godi media, because literally your funding and everything else is putting you or pushing you in a certain direction, and exactly sections of this media will label everybody else. But this is, as Swaran Singh said, a wake-up call that this does happen, this does exist. Everything you read as a highly rated opinion is not being fair to Indian interests, unfortunately.
You have raised a very interesting question, and I have had the opportunity to visit China also on a couple of occasions, and also meet a lot of journalists there, a lot of Chinese journalists there, and the establishment there. See, it happens at two levels. One is that they have, as Mr. Swaran Singh was saying, they are very adept at propaganda wars. So it is not only Newsclick, they have agencies like Xinhua, they have Confucius Centers, they have China Radio International, which runs services in more than 60 languages. So it's a very kind of, you can say, it's a massive mechanism. They have bought a lot of stakes in Hollywood. And so they have done it, and especially under Xi Jinping, they have done it in a very concerted manner. Now, there are two ways in which they operate. One is basically when they target the individual journalists, when they take them on, trips, they give them fellowships, and they give them a lot of support. The other thing is that when it is done through institutional mechanism.
Yes.
So when it's done at the individual level, I would still give some kind of leeway to journalists that they might have been taken for a ride. But as far as institutional support is concerned, so it's a very clear-cut. It's a very clear-cut case of knowing it, doing it, basically blowing the trumpet of, or basically putting out content which is basically in favor of China. So I think it's a very dangerous proposition. It is also a very, it's a great challenge for the media fraternity because we are a self-regulated fraternity.
Absolutely.
The point is basically, I hope, the Editors Guild of India, though I call it these days the Editors Guild of India, because the way, they operate in a one-sided manner. So they should come out with this thing. They should censor it. And until and unless we do that, and it's a question of grave national security, it's a national security concern. But just to end it, over the last 2-3 years, there have been a number of reports by various think tanks. I can tell you, Law and Society Alliance and CIHS are 2 think tanks who have come out extensively on reports which have said that how Chinese have penetrated into Indian media.
Yes.
So I think it's time we take cognizance of that, and it should not become the only issue in itself. It should actually basically, kick off a kind of what we call an exercise to clean the Indian media of, such dubious organizations.
There are 2 things. One, as Anurag Thakur, the INB minister, mentioned that, this kind of propaganda cannot be protected in the name of freedom of the press. That is one. And in media, one of the biggest things that needs to be taken care of is disclaimers. Now, there is no problem if you're presenting the CCP's view or China's view, quote unquote, even in India as part of a written opinion piece or report. But if your funding is making you biased, there has to be a disclaimer about the antecedents. I think that's the most important thing. Let me bring in our political representatives as well. Anshul, I'll give you the first opportunity because the BJP and its sitting ministers today have directly dragged in the Congress party. They've gone back to 2021 to the statements that your leaders made when Newsclick was being probed, how you tried to defend them, how you tried to make this about freedom of the media and press, and basically question any action even against dubious portals like this one. All because they allege you're actually part of this quote-unquote conspiracy to keep Indian interests down and further foreign interests. Avijit.
Yeah, Shivani, dragged in is absolutely the right word. First of all, it's exceedingly laughable. I wonder what the world is coming to when the BJP starts quoting the New York Times and establishes it as some kind of a new benchmark for journalistic truth. I mean, I wish they'd shown the same courtesy during the mismanagement during the COVID years when the New York Times has brought out this huge expose. But be that as it will, I mean, at that particular time, not only was the Congress party and other opposition members, but members of the Press Council of India, the Women's Press Corps, the Delhi Union of Journalists were protesting against what we believe has now turned into an Orwellian state, where the freedom of the press has been clamped down. Now, when you protest against clampdown of the freedom of the press, and our press index, freedom of press index is deplorable, it doesn't mean that you're determining the editorial content of the newspaper or the website that you're protesting against.
No, but as a responsible party, Avijit, shouldn't the Congress party have held his horses? No, Avijit, listen, Avijit, let me come in. Just listen to me. Shouldn't the Congress party, as a responsible political player in the country, held his horses, waited to see why the investigation is needed, what are the antecedents, what comes out of it? Recently, the BBC, investigations are also something that one can point out to. You raise a hue and cry without the subject matter or the case itself speak for itself. Is the Congress not guilty of that?
This is a climate. No, hang on a minute. First of all, you must distinguish. You made a distinction between anti-India propaganda, which must be there, but those who critique the government. So, anti-government critique. Now, every organization, so far as the history of the BJP and their management, every organization that has critiqued this government has found itself in some kind of trouble or the other. I mean, you critique the mismanagement of the COVID, next day your newspaper gets recorded. I mean, it's there for the history books out there. Secondly, for this China connection, I mean, if there are spin doctors of the China's political philosophy, it has to be the BJP and the RSS. Why hasn't the PM cared? And we say it time and again. This is being brought up time and again, right?
Okay, but let's not deviate. I have limited time. Let's not deviate. Let's focus on the media's role and how under the pretext of freedom, surely even I as a journalist will say, not everything is kosher. You cannot just go on and say and do things. Your funding absolutely is a matter of concern for any democratic country. This is not just India. As our panelists said, this is questions being raised in the Oceania region. This is a chatter happening in America and all across the world. But Guru Prakash, please come in. That every criticism of the government brings in a reaction from the government and its agencies, and therefore opposition parties are compelled to question the methods employed by this government, which they did back in 2021.
No, Shivani, I think this idea is clearly beyond my comprehension. Every single leader from the opposition parties, they are sitting day in and day out and using abusive languages for our Prime Minister. I don't even want to comment here. And then they say that criticism of government is unnecessary. And like my dear friend Anshul pointed out, the China connection, I have a simple photograph from 2008. And I have a simple question to ask my dear friend Anshul. In what capacity is Mr. Rahul Gandhi signing this? People of India have every right to know the truth. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is not the head of the state. Mr. Rahul Gandhi back then was not the head of the party. In what capacity did Mr. Rahul Gandhi sign this MOU with the Chinese embassy? Number two, it has been established. People of Gandhi family, members of Gandhi family are the trustees of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. The Rajiv Gandhi Foundation has received 1.35 crore from the Chinese embassy. What was the purpose? Was that fund accounted for? Was that fund audited? Number three, my friend Anshul was pointing out. So every time there is some sort of action on anti-India activity, what is the anxiety of the Congress party? At the same time, when Newsclick was being raided by Enforcement Directorate, who all did not tweet from the Congress party? Senior leader of the Congress party, former Chief Minister, Mr. Digvijay Singh questioned it. Senior leader of the Congress party, Randeep Surjewala questioned it. And there is a history with the leadership of the Congress party. Mr. Salman Khurshid, former External Affairs Minister, senior leader of the Congress party, has said, जब Butler House encounter हुआ था, तब सोनिया गांधी की आंखों में आंसू थे.
Okay, let's focus on the China issue. Anshul, I want to give you 1 minute to...
Last 10 seconds. Last 10 seconds. No. अरे इतना लंबा समय आप देते हो. Shivani, you have to understand, when India is growing, today we are the 5th largest economy. We are the world's largest, most transparent democracy in the world. G20 is happening here. On the initiative of India, International Day of Yoga is celebrated. On the initiative of India, International Year of Millet is celebrated. On the initiative of India, we are seeing Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Every multilateral initiative is happening on the base of India. India is taking its global leadership position. There are certain forces internationally and in India which are the breaking India forces.
Okay, fair enough. That's what I accepted as much, that it would be a little bit naive and foolish to suggest that there are no such anti-India forces, whether funded from some other powers or not. These forces exist. But Anshul, I want to give you a minute to explain this. That MOU signed between the Congress and the CCP keeps coming back to haunt the party. We still don't know what the contours of that MOU is. Now, Congress's position is extremely eroded on the subject of China because of that MOU. On top of that, willingly or unwillingly, aren't you becoming party to anti-India forces or lobbies by supporting them, willingly or unwillingly? Please respond very quickly, Anshul.
Shivani, please do not conflate a critique of this government, which we have done relentlessly when China has occupied so much of our territory. That's why you have 16 rounds of co-commander talks sitting here. And if anyone has been complicit in spreading Chinese...
Please go and read the statement of A.K. Antony.
Let me speak. I gave you that courtesy.
38,000 square kilometers, sir.
This kind of propaganda
A.K. Antony ji has spoken on the floor of the parliament, just reminding you. 38,000 square of kilometers. Your defense minister, Mr. A.K. Antony, has said it on the floor of the parliament.
Arunachal Pradesh with China. They were invited over here. And that dialogue actually went on in the sort of stewardship of Prime Minister Modi when he met the Chinese premier multiple times. You've had Chinese companies which have been donating to PM Care, but PM Care has been opaque in its disclosures. You've had Oppo, you have Xiaomi. Xiaomi actually said that they tweeted that they've donated 10 crores to PM Care. Why haven't you brought out
all of those questions are fair enough, but should a political party like the Congress become or be seen as becoming a party to what is clearly emerging as anti-India narrative funded by overseas governments?
Well,
Abhijit, very quickly.
Have a probe. who's stopping a probe? You know, you began the debate, Shivani, and very rightly so, with the way China is trying to influence the world through money, through hook or crook, through nefarious means. That is a mature debate. It can't come to this kind of thing where you keep kind of trading these cheap charges when the BJP has so much to hide and there's so much opacity in what the BJP does. Why doesn't the PM Care come out with this list of donors and be done with it? You should ask this particular question. Why doesn't it come out and say
Guru Prakash, I have 15 seconds. You want to respond to that on the issue of China? Why not respond to that too if you bring in the MOU?
No, Shivani, we have to understand that it was the Congress Defence Minister, Mr. A.K. Antony, who has said that 38,000 square kilometers, 38,000 square
Cares Fund is
kilometers of
asking
Indian
about.
land is compromised.
No, I'm asking about Guru. I'm asking about PM Cares Fund.
It
in the
was
same line that
during
you asked me a question.
It was during UP era. It was during UP era. Mr. Rahul Gandhi uses words like "Hamare."
I've run out of time. I do have to end it there. I do thank our guests for joining us. We'll have to wait and see how this investigation pans out. On that note, it's an end on this edition of Plain Speak. My colleague Anand is now joining you on the right stand. Anand, over to you on the upper floors.
Yes, absolutely. And hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, Jai Hind. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Right Stand. This is our multi-layered studio, which promises to take newscast to a whole new level. But even as we claim to be Asia's biggest news TV station, the question is, what should media be? Independent? In India, should we be independent? That means independent or talking about India, or should we be PLA-pendant? This aspect, ladies and gentlemen, has become quite a big talking point with the emergence of reports in US media about certain news agencies who have been solely parroting